Hi. Okay, guys. Well, welcome to our meetup for this quarter, our very first meetup for the programmable banking community for quarter three. There's a couple of new people who've joined this meetup, which is always cool, which is always really great and fun. So if you are new or just want to say hi, please feel free to use the chat and just have a wave and just let us know where you're joining us from, the usual sort of chatty Zoomy stuff. Uh, but if you do want to join the community and you are new and you kind of get excited about what you see today, Shan's going to put a link into the chat where you can join up. You can sign up for the Investec Programmable Banking community, where we play around with the Investec Core API, programmable banking, and all of that. It is free to join. You don't need an Investec API to join specifically, but it does kind of help. But there are some really cool community sort of mock APIs that you can play around with and just join the community and have a bit of fun with us, if that's cool. So these meetups are pretty relaxed, pretty casual. So please feel free to put on your cameras if you want. Have a chat. You can raise a hand. You can shout. You can scream. It's all good. It's all cool. We try to keep a very sort of whole casual vibe with all of these meetups. So before we get cracking on all the really cool things that's on the agenda for tonight, we've had some really great people who've shared some really cool things in the last month in the community, if you haven't joined us in the community in a while. So there's Fricky, who, I don't know if you've seen in the community, he's been playing around with the Split It app, which is really fun, really cool, where you can split your bill and it's using Investec Programmable Banking. So he's now launched that onto the Play stores and to the whole iOS Apple store, so you can get an app of that. So that's really cool. And then also Dom did this really cool update to our Capture the Flag game. So we played a whole Capture the Flag game last month, or at the previous whole ideation sort of session that we had. And now he's updated the leaderboard where it's a live sort of thing. So feel free, I'll drop the links now into the chat also, so you can take a look at the Capture the Flag game and you can play along. Also, it's just working with the programmable banking card and the API itself directly. And then, of course, there's Nick, who did this really great sort of walkthrough article on programmable banking and building in a budgeting app with it. So I'll drop the links now and you guys can take a look at. But these are just a few of the really cool things that were shared in the community in the last month, if you're really keen to find out more. So as I mentioned before, this is our first meetup for quarter one. It's our technical road map where Wayne and the Investec team then chats to us about the really cool things that they have planned for quarter three, what they're giving out, or what what are the features that they're building, and to get your feedback on a lot of the stuff. So remember that the community is community first. So it's your opportunity to ask the team directly any things that's raised. And then it's also a great way to see what the guys have planned and to have some view on it. And then our next meetups are normally around some ideation fun where we fiddle around with stuff. But the quarter theme for this quarter is programmable banking virtual cards. And I'll let Wayne talk a little bit more about that. So on the agenda for tonight, got a really cool demo from Nick on something that he's been really building out, and it's really cool. And I'm not going to steal the thunder, but I really love it. And then we got a discussion on Investec, from Investec. Wayne's going to chat about the quarter three roadmap. And then, of course, VT is going to talk to us and explain to us how do you use the DynamoDB as a cache. And that is actually pretty cool. And then, of course, we've got some cool community updates that we'll then chat about. But yeah, that's our agenda for tonight. Any questions? If everyone happy with that, anything you want to add, raise, delete, don't agree with? Assuming happy, yeah, awesome, cool. Nick, do you want to give it a shot? Are you ready?
Yes, thanks, Nick.
Awesome.
Cool. I'm gonna share quick. Yeah, Nick's everywhere. Cool. Okay, so I'm just gonna do a quick demo of this application I built to effortlessly manage your subscriptions. All right, so yeah, just as a way of introduction, I've got the floor, so I thought I'd tell you a bit about myself while joining the community. Yeah, just basically that's a picture of me small growing up in the workshop. I siblings didn't want to play with me, but it ended up basically leading to me studying to be an engineer and working as an engineer. I'm now the head of engineering at OfferZen, and yeah, just built this on the side for a bit of fun. And yeah, my wife and I are Tolkien fans. You can find me outside. I enjoy running, swimming, rock climbing, anything like that. And the reason I'm joining the community is that I really believe that we should be using technology to help push innovation forward. We should collaborate with each other, and we should find out how we can enhance the user experience. And I think the Investec Open API is such an awesome way to do that. So that's why I went and built something with it. Cool. Okay, so put up your hands or react or say yes if any of you have been hit with a card transaction where a subscription went off and you are like just face palming, thinking, damn, I forgot about that one. Or if it's been bugging you, it's sitting in your head and you're like, oh, I must remember to cancel that thing. And like a month goes by and you're remembering at odd times in the day. Cool. And then, yeah, this happens at work as well. There's a post that goes out to all 150 OfferZeners. It says, if you're using the company card for Audible, please just pause your subscription because you're not supposed to be having a subscription on the company card. All right. So, yeah, I set out to basically solve this. What can we do basically? So I set some principles for myself. I thought, okay, cool. Generative AI is helping really offload a lot of the user experience, like doing manual things as a user. And that can really help make a seamless experience, especially for Investec customers. Just a one-click type of solution, and you can get what you need. Okay, because we're dealing with bank stuff, and I was the privacy officer at OfferZen, especially while being audited by Investec to get this initiative out. I also put privacy by design as like a first principle, and yeah, just built in encryption methods and that type of thing. And then yeah, the thing about banking and fintech is that you need that trust of the bank. So it's awesome that there's an open API. And what I did is just pasted, just for your own peace of mind, just a picture of a screenshot, just 2 users. I'm one of them, but you can see how the email is encrypted there. So we're keeping pretty much all the information really secure and safe. All right, so yeah, it's not like developer, you can accidentally do stuff and lose data. All right, so a quick overview of what I've built. We've got 3 types of users. So Investec, there's quite a few SMEs signing up for cloud services. There's also parents and professionals who use a lot of subscriptions, Netflix, all of that, as well as, Microsoft and all of that stuff. And then we also have the programmable banking community. Okay, and I wanted to make something for all of these people, and I think these are ideal customers. So the app itself is this top layer, and we'll be doing a demo now of jumping into how you can manage your subscriptions. But what I've also released is a API to add and contribute back to the community. So if you go to the API, you can also start classifying your own transactions. And like Nick's article that other Nick mentioned at the beginning, is he was looking at he was saying, he was getting transactions out of FNB or other banks. Once you have those transactions, I've exposed this thing so you can classify your own ones and figure out which are the subscriptions or not. So just building off the back of this. Okay, and that's really what's powering the app itself as well. Okay, so quick notes before demoing. It is an alpha release. I'm looking to speak to as many people as possible. So I would love it if you signed up and used it. And please let me know if you do, so that I can get some feedback from you and just hear about your experience. Yeah, tell me what features you like, what you don't like. And if you want to get involved, give me a shout. I've got my details down at the bottom. And yeah, let's jump into a quick demo. Okay, are you seeing the website now? Cool. Okay, so this is at www.subtrack.co.za. And if you click sign in, sorry, I'm just moving my controls around. If you click sign in, you get to app.subtrack.co.za. We'll log in as a demo user, sign in. You can sign up with Google as well. And what's just happened is the application has run through all your transactions and picked up all the, we have transactions already. It's all fake data, but it's classifying them on the fly because it classifies them very quickly. And what you can see is basically just the last 6 months, different transactions to different places. These aren't really subscriptions, but because of the frequency of them, you can actually get subscription aspects of it. But something like Otter AI or ChatGPT, LinkedIn, these are being basically there's transactions on the different cards and there's different amounts throughout the different months. And what's nice to see, these should really be horizontal if it's all the same, but if someone starts inviting a lot of people in your organization and it's a pay per seat type of subscription, these would start climbing. And it's a good sign to say, okay, just to query that and see what's happening there. But this is really just normal analytics on your transactions with the intelligence of classifying them as subscriptions. So let's have a look at some of the card transactions. Oh, what I learned was something that doesn't have a card transaction is actually a card on the transaction is actually a debit order. So the card number will be an empty string, which is quite cool to get that visibility as well. Okay, and then card transactions, what first happens? So when you sign up, it will process all your transactions and you'll be tracking none to start off with, but then it'll give you suggestions. So there's a type form, there's some type form transactions in this account on this card. It's automatically identified that this is a data collection or survey type of tool. And there's a form builder. And it's usually got a subscription basis. We can add it. We can dig in a little bit deeper, see all the different transactions, fake data. So it's a bit of a weird order and it's found a natural frequency in there of 9 days automatically and your total spend. So just a couple of metrics around that. But where the power of this comes in is to say, okay, I don't actually want to be paying for Typeform. I don't know who signed up for that. They're using my card. I'm going to block any payment that comes in to this provider. So that is on your card. It's actually doing a callback to the server and will not authorize that payment before it gets to Investec there. Okay. And yeah, if you want to, you can also just look through your own transactions. You could search, what is that, Airbnb. You can classify them as Airbnb yourself if you want. My Airbnb. And tag it saying, I don't know, holiday. Submit that. And now you can actually start to, sorry, I probably have to refresh. You can start to look into those things. Okay, so yeah, and same for, this is picked up for all the other cards. There's Twitter, all these types of newsletters, all of that type of stuff pops up here quickly and with one click. All right, here's my Airbnb, and we can check those out, and it'll show you here as well. So this is the non-AI version. That's the one that's a little bit more manual effort. Yeah, but that's what will happen, and it's quite robust in terms of classifying. Great. So what you'll be able to do is, first of all, you can connect to Investec online. You would have to fill in your API credentials here. This isn't connected because it's a fake account, but that's where your details will start pulling through. You would be able to then see your account, your cards, really just taking that same data you get on the API and pulling it in. You can download your data, and you can delete your account if you don't want me to see that anymore. I can't really see too much anyway, but if you don't want your data in here anymore. And then here's where you can create an API key. So let's do a community demo. You can create the key, pops up, copy it, and you could just paste that into, you would paste it here. So this is a curl, and what you can do is basically send transactions. If it's got an ID, well, you must give it an ID. This can be the transaction, whatever you're getting, the amount and all of that. And the server will respond with a new object in there. It'll give you your information back with the ID, and we'll say, cool, this is actually Twitter. It's a social media, and it's got paid features, so it'll tag it for you and give you the reason, like, okay, Twitter offers this. So if you're paying Twitter, it's probably a subscription. Okay, so you can now pretty much send any transaction and get this information if you create an account on Subtrack. Cool, and then yeah, you can just delete your account. You can delete your API key so that people don't do anything weird with it. All right, that is the demo. And yeah, maybe a quick one on what I learned, just a quick hack. Using ChatGPT, you can say, okay, read and understand this README. Once you're done, comment and think about, comment on what you think Open API and this type of stuff can do for the industry, and then wait for instructions from me. So what I did is, if you're getting started in the community, copy the text out of the Git book, out of the instructions from what the team has put together. So this is all just content that you can get as part of the community. Paste it in. What's awesome is, the wisdom of GPT will tell you, great, this Investec Open API can create an enhanced user experience and innovation and collaboration, more operational efficiency, all the good stuff there. But taking it one step further, you can just say, cool, generate a Ruby client that can push some card code in JavaScript. And we get that nice information here. So you can pretty much run this in Ruby, and here's the before transaction. This is where you can be, authorizing the transaction or not. And there we go, you're up and running, and you can get cracking and be involved in the community.
Awesome.
Sweet. So yeah, if I wasn't sounding desperate enough, please sign up. I would really appreciate it, and let me know. And yeah, are there any questions?
Well done, Bud. That was really cool. I really love this thing. If there's any guys have any sort of the questions that you might not want Nick to answer, or you can ask him now.
Yeah, I've got a question. When you get these 30-day free trials that request your credit card, and you've run out of virtual cards, is there a way that you can lock it going forward?
Yeah, Jason. So every well, every user who joins offers it. I mean, offers it, Subtrack. Every user who joins, the more transactions we get, then they get classified. So just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean that it hasn't been seen on the platform. So what I want to do is basically be able to say, okay, I've signed up for something. You can add that. You can maybe add it to the transaction here. You can say, okay, if this comes in, don't allow it. Right. So just out of the bat, it doesn't have to come out of your transactions, existing transactions. Is that what you were thinking? Is that kind of, would that solve your problem? Jason? Was it Jason who asked?
Good.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was Jason. While you're busy with that, I think VT had a question thing, and then yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested in how you're doing the classification. Is it rule-based, AI-based? Which AI? How?
It's gotta be AI based, otherwise you're irrelevant. It's yeah, it's using GPT-4. I've got a background in computational electromagnetics, and data structures and all of that. So there is a bit of complicated stuff, but the best thing I can say is, I mean, the most shortcut answer is like, using GPT, you can get some really powerful stuff, basically. And I mean, it's got, like some natural language processing in that, but yeah, you can, I think it's such an accessible technology that, I just encourage you to do that. Cool. Sorry, and
Hi. First thing, very well done. Actually, very cool.
awesome. Thank you.
Second thing, so I have two questions. Okay, so VT actually did answer one of the other ones I was going to ask. I want to actually find out for you with the using OpenAI. Do you actually have at least an idea of like how you can model it in a way so that it wouldn't be as expensive? Because I'm not sure how you're doing the prompts then that would actually, because the tokens could be quite large then, because I know this could potentially scale with a lot of data. And yeah, just curious about that.
Yeah. So it's not actually using too many tokens. If I'm filtering out stuff before, so I don't want to send every transaction. There's just going to be too many. But yeah, there's just using the raw aspects. But now a lot of people, I mean, that the next step of this whole journey in terms of, I mean, for the world is making your own LLMs or bringing them in-house, hosting them yourself, tuning them. And you start to get, a lot more. I think I want to check out the fine tuning on
Yes.
OpenAI, but there's also like models on AWS and stuff. That's what we're doing. That's part of our ML ops stuff that offers in general.
Okay, cool. That was actually going to be the next question, was actually around, would you consider or have like a self-trained LLM that it's maybe smaller, more like fine-tuned and trained to this project? And obviously, it would be practically free if you have it self-hosted in that case. But this is very good. Thanks for this.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean,
Nick,
I'm just looking to...
I know we need to continue. Sorry, I wanted to just add a comment. So I think in one of the last meetups, I did do a demo on a fine-tuned model. So when
cool.
you are using it for something very specific like transaction classification, you can go like, basically you can extract your examples as you have them now, and then fine-tune a model with that, and it drops it to cents. Basically, the price becomes very negligible.
Nice. Okay, sweet. Thanks, VT.
Yeah, VT, you gotta send those links, please.
So we will find the meetup. Cool. Thanks. Guys, any more questions for Nick? I'm sure he'll be around. He's also on the Slack group for the guys who are in the community. But if you have anything that you want to know, feel free to use the chats. Should be available soon. Cool. Just moving along here. Let me just share my screen here quickly. So our next setup is Q3. So what does Investec have planned for this quarter? So Wayne, I think you're the speaker for this one. Well, what do you got planned?
Am I the speaker?
Yes.
Nick showed us that thing earlier. When was it? Last week? This week? I don't remember. You got everybody very excited about your app, I'm saying. It's a very useful thing.
Thanks,
Okay,
Wayne.
so so the Q3 roadmap. The good news is, I don't know if you all saw, we went live with virtual cards on Investec Online. So after 4 years of nagging me, screaming at me, swearing at me, we finally have. So
it's all
that's
in
step
love,
one.
Wayne. It's all in love. Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say. The rest is all rubbish, because that's all I ever wanted was virtual cards, virtual cards, virtual cards. No, so okay, on the roadmap for Q3, we got statements from private banks. So you can pull your transaction history, you can do beneficiary payments, all of those things. We've had a lot of clients who actually want to be emailed their statements. So instead of logging in, getting a statement, you can now just do an API call. Well, it's going to be there, so you can just do an API call, and your statements will be basically emailed to you, like through the system that you use online. We'll just expose it via API. It's quite useful for in the business context where like companies have large statements and they want to pull stuff. So a lot of this is going to be quite focused on the business space. So doesn't mean it's not cool stuff, but yeah. Okay, the IFI API. IFI stands for Investec for Intermediaries. I think last time I explained, we basically have three market segments at Investec. We have private clients, like individuals, like you and me. Then we have corporates, like businesses doing stuff. And then we have this intermediary business. They've been very keen to get on the API, and they have just launched, well, they're about to launch their APIs. So if you're in the know Investec, there's a thing called the corporate cash manager accounts. Basically, like if you're a lawyer and you buy a house, they put that money into like a suspense account while the house transfers and things are going. That system looks after that. So you're able to access those CCM accounts using APIs. We've always extended the model on it so that like some intermediaries, for example, have employees that manage clients' money. We've extended that worth model now so that I know it's quite complicated. So just tell me if I'm confusing everybody. If you're an employee of a intermediary, you can authorize the intermediary to pull stuff on your behalf as the employee, because the employee would have access to all the client stuff. So it's almost like a delegated proxy thing. So it's quite useful for large intermediaries with lots of staff. All those staff work for clients. Those logins that they have as the staff can now authorize the intermediary to pull stuff. So it creates massive efficiency in an intermediary type of business. It's very much on the corporate side. I'm not sure the community would use any of those things unless you have a very specific business case you're looking at. Moving on. So we did a lot of work on the external developer portal. You saw it went live last quarter. It's been very well received. We want to do a similar process on our internal developer portal. So internally, we still run very much like a traditional IT shop where there's teams. And if you want to build an API, you have to like talk to somebody in the team and blah, 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 you know, the typical IT thing. We took the learnings from the external dev portal, and we're going to create the internal dev portal so that when teams interact with each other, they can have a similar experience, like getting to a Swagger document, how do you onboard, how does security work. We're doing a lot of the work that Devin helped us with around error codes, all of that stuff. So it's very good learnings that we want to apply on our internal dev portal. So it's not something the community would see, but hopefully you'll see better quality APIs coming out of us, out of Investec, more structured, better error codes, all of that stuff. So we're hoping that will be quite useful. Okay, then the virtual card APIs. As I said earlier, we launched the virtual cards, but you can only do it through the online platform. We are very shortly going to release the APIs so that you can actually issue virtual cards or create virtual cards using APIs, which is quite cool. So you basically, I think there's two methods: one to create a virtual card, and the other one to get your PAN, your CVV, and your expiry date or whatever. So it's got some encryption things, so it won't be so simple, but like you'll figure it out.
Oh, sorry, Wayne.
Yeah.
That virtual cards app, the APIs, is that just for the private accounts, or is that for private and corporate accounts? Or
It's in the private banking space. So if you're a private bank or in a business in private banking, you could use them. And the corporate ones will follow, but we're just lagging behind a bit in the corporate space.
Cool.
But they'll be there within a couple of months.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, and then you all know we've been on this mission to say, how do we take programmable banking and expose it to non-developers, like people that don't have access to developers or can't code or whatever. We want to like create experience that enrich their lives too. So we're looking at building some screens, almost like that have code snippets. So for example, if I want to say, I want to create an Uber card, like a non-dev won't really know how to create that. We want to almost put a block there and say, this is a Uber card code. If you click on it, activate it, and we'll basically let non-techies start leveraging the power of programmable banking in limited use cases for a start. We don't want to go overboard because that could be quite a admin pain if people start modifying the code or whatever. But I think it will be quite a nice thing to start explaining to people the value of APIs and programmable banking that aren't in the dev community. Like a more broader range of clients can then start using it. Okay, then I think last quarter we launched the sandbox for private bank. After many years, we've constantly had that, like, how do I test my stuff? We're obviously going big now. So in the next quarter, we're launching sandboxes for CIB, for the IFI FX, so the foreign exchange API, the ones I mentioned on top, and CCM as well. So both of them on top there. So every time we launch an API now, you should see a sandbox following it shortly or at the same time, just to help businesses and like dev community members actually get up and running without having accounts, because that's been quite a big barrier to entry across the community for a while. And then a developer referral program, which I'm going to let Neil talk about for a second, because that's his baby.
Cool. Hi, Wayne. Thanks.
Hello.
So basically, we have a referral program that runs in the building, which means that if you as a client recommend, banking at Investec to a mate or to a colleague or whatever, there's some benefit in it to you, and that's in the form of sort of like some rewards points. It's a bit of a clunky process, so we are looking at rolling it out to the developer community and sexifying it just a little bit. We just want to make sure that like, guys, it's not slick at the moment, so we're going to see exactly like what we can improve just to get it into the community, get some cool feedback, and then obviously we understand that people are recommending, like, people in the developer community are recommending their mates and their colleagues. So let's get some benefit in it for you. And I think it works out to be so I'm not allowed to give numbers, but it's a few thousand rewards points, which equates to some pocket change. So if you refer a few friends, then obviously it can all add up to like a December holiday. Obviously there's some criteria for your referrer, you're the referee. Okay, sorry. I'm single parenting. Say hello to the worms. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Papa.
And so obviously there's some things like the account needs to be open for a certain time. There need to be sort of debit orders that run off of it, but it's like more details to follow. So watch this. We're quite excited, and obviously it adds a bit of value in your lives. So watch the space.
Cool.
Thanks.
It's just the more developers we get onboarded, the more people we have here, the more people we have using APIs, the more IP we generate. So, my mission is to get all developers to use Investec stuff so we can have a big knowledge base of how to integrate with everything. That's the official spiel. Okay. And part of why I love these meetups is of the family nature of it. We've had so many people with children, with babies here. It's definitely not just a techie thing. Or it's disproving the thing that techies can't have children, eh? Which is in our mother's basement's working. No, it's not real. Okay. Moving on swiftly. And then just lastly, beneficiary payments with authorization. So if you use the beneficiary payment API till now, you'll see there's no authorization step in it, because we would, like, if you go into Investec online, you can set up a beneficiary payment to say, if I pay Nick, then I don't know, Shana has to approve it, like a two-step authorization process. When we launched beneficiary payments, that wasn't on the cards yet. We've launched it now. So if you do a beneficiary payment, you can actually inject the thing to say, I want to do a beneficiary payment, and a list of beneficiaries will be there, and you can say Shanna has to approve, and then she has to log into Investec Online to approve it. So not sure it's available for the community unless you have shared accounts or something, but for businesses, you can imagine that's quite valuable where they have multiple people authorizing stuff in the process. And that's basically it for this next couple of months. And there's some cool stuff happening. A lot of it's still happening in the corporate space, in the intermediary space, where we're getting a lot of traction. But we don't forget about the community. You have your virtual card after all these years. I'm very happy for that.
Yeah, it's very cool. Thank you. Anything that you guys would like to ask the team, the Investec team, around the API, what they've planned? Please feel free to ask now or put it into the chat. Wayne, they're always open to feedback, to communicating, to discuss, and Wayne tends to be overly communicative about stuff. So feel free to ask him anything. Yeah.
If you have some features where we haven't said this well, but if there's something that you would like, you just don't be shy to like pop it down other miles, put it here, put it somewhere, because from the beginning, we've been building like stuff based on community and client feedback. So if you want something, let us know and we'll put it on the backlog and get it built whenever. Okay.
Or on the canny board. Yeah.
On the canny board, exactly.
Yes, on the canny board. I'll post the link now.
Awesome. Awesome.
There
Thanks,
we go.
Shan. You're a legend. Cool. So yeah, post on there. The team does review this every week. They look at the feedback, they look at the feature requests, and they categorize it. And this is where they also keep you updated about where they are. So all this stuff that Wayne just spoke about now, they'll put into the canny board, and you'll be able to say, hey, look, yeah, we actually agree on this one. There's a bigger one, and kind of give any feedback that you want on it. So it's all open for the community, and it's driven by the community. So yeah, so have a look there if you are using the programmable banking or API. Any questions? Anything else you guys want to ask? Hey, ask the team. Neil, Wayne, all the guys are here. Yeah,
Torian. I don't know how you pronounce your name.
Hi.
Torian.
Yeah, Torian is correct. Yes. So my question with regards to the rollout of these features, would all of these be documented in a single location that if we were to go on and we'd be able to find it? I don't know if it's in the same location going forward with where we have the actual API.
Yes, no, there's a developer.investec.com. That's our developer portal, the one I mentioned earlier we rebuilt.
Okay.
Every API that we talk about here, it's documented there. Everything is there. So there's only one place to find any documentation for us, and that's on that official developer.investec.com.
Okay, perfect.
Obviously,
thank you.
And then obviously with something like, I guess, like, let's call it operational type stuff, like a referral campaign, it won't live on the developer, it won't live on the developer community, the developer portal. So we'll figure out like a place where those sort of, I guess, messages can live. Like we're still working on
all
those.
the technical documentation is on the developer portal.
Okay,
Devin
awesome.
helped us create some examples, and like there's lots of cool stuff there. So like just go look around there. There's nothing. If something's missing, let us know. Could have maybe forgot something. Okay.
I will do that. Thank you.
Torian, we also have a programmable banking community wiki, which also has some resources there, which are like community created resources that you can also go take a look at.
Okay, I'm trying to get all the links together, so I might ask you at the end of the meeting just to show I have everything.
No problem. I tend to post all the links after the meetup also, so watch out for that one. But yeah, I'll also.
Okay,
thank you. There's some seriously cool stuff that's like been built from over the years by all the community. So if you're looking for examples of stuff or what people have built, there's a lot of stuff there.
Again, guys, if you have anything more, please ask Wayne. The guys, feel free to use the chat. So for the time, I think we can move on to the next demo, if that's cool with Wayne. You good? Cool. Thanks, Wayne. Our next one is BT. Mate, you ready, man?
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Just a disclaimer, there's no AI in this part of the presentation. Unfortunately, I'm not smart enough for that. My name is VT. You're going to try to read Butlari record, so we don't have to do the whole dance. Everyone just calls me VT. I cosplay as a developer. Don't really know what I do. I haven't been found out yet for the last for the last 16 years. It's been working, so I continue to do that. And most recently, I think I'm becoming the DynamoDB guy by accident. But I'm leaning into it. So cool. Next slide, please, Nick. Yeah, so I'm very scrappy. I'm not as organized as Nick might have been, with a nice app where you find a good place to put all your Investec keys. I wanted to get things working very quickly. Big fan of GraphQL, so I basically wrapped the Investec API, exposed my own GraphQL API. But because the plan was I was the only one accessing it, I didn't want to build a whole auth flow. So like everyone else who goes onto AWS, creates a free account and uses Lambda, I did that. I used Lambda, and I quickly hit a problem, which is I was calling the API a lot because I was doing a lot of data exploration to understand my transactions. And I found out very quickly that Investec kind of throttles you when you call the auth endpoint a lot. So of course, I started wanting to cache it. And I think, you know, when you cosplay as a developer, one of the things you have to know is that cache Redis, right? So I jumped onto Redis, but I'm also cheap. I don't like to pay for things, hence the free AWS account. So I also don't want to pay for Redis. So I went online, Google free Redis account. Found something. There were quite a lot in the States, but the problem is that they're slow. So I'm cheap, but I also like nice things. I also want things to be fast. Tried to set something up on AWS, and it ended up being way too much work, not, again, in the spirit of being scrappy. So I set out to solve the problem. I want to cache my auth token so that I can reuse it. I think it lasts for about half an hour. So I wanted to cache it for about 25 minutes, wanted a solution that was fast and free, best of both worlds. Again, I said it was hard to get a free Redis cluster nearby. There is now with fly.io, but it's not very reliable. So I'm still leaning on this solution. And I wanted to want something that works with my current tooling. So I'm on AWS, so went digging there. Next, please, Nick. Cool. So I used DynamoDB. First things first, what is DynamoDB? Please, I really apologize for the buzzword salad, but DynamoDB is a cloud-native, NoSQL, primarily key value database. First, cloud native, it means that it runs primarily in the cloud. You don't have to, you can't, even if you wanted to install it like on-prem or on your machine or anything like that, it's technology that was just kind of built for and runs in the cloud. NoSQL, most people think this means that you can't run SQL queries against the database. That's not what it means. Actually comes from a hashtag not a couple anymore, years ago, where people wanted not only SQL. So they're like, SQL is fine, but we also want other ways to be able to query our databases. So this falls into one of those NoSQL databases, and it's primarily key value based. So like Redis, it is a key value store, but primarily because it can also store documents. So you can store like JSON files and things like that, a couple of layers deep. And I wanted to say something else about DynamoDB. Oh, the interesting thing about DynamoDB is that it actually has support for transactions. So you can run transactions like you would on a SQL database. So that's not what that NoSQL means. Next slide, please, Nick. Cool. So why would you use DynamoDB? Said it's managed for you, right? So you don't have to do anything. You don't have to patch. You don't have to provision new resources if you need more space or you need more capacity. You don't have to worry about security patching or anything like that. It kind of just exists there in the cloud for you, and it's available regardless of your workload, whether you have, one request a day or whether you have, 10 million transactions per second. It just scales for you. And the nice thing, again, when you're very cheap, is it's pay per use. So you only pay for what you use. And they're very nice people at AWS. With Lambda, if you've used Lambda before, you know that your first million invocations on Lambda are free. So if you're one script dude trying to integrate with Investec and you're guaranteed to be the first one, basically your Lambda usage is free. With DynamoDB, your first 25 gigabytes stored every month are free, right? So if you're just using it as session storage, it's really great because it means it's free for data storage. And thereafter, you pay about just under R5 per gigabyte every month. So after that initial 25 gigabytes. So if you store 26 gigabytes worth of data for that month, you're gonna pay R5 or R4.37. And then DynamoDB does have two ways. So you've got provisioned, and then you've got like on-demand kind of billing. I usually just stick with on-demand. It's because I don't really have a reason at this point to do any capacity planning. I don't know when I open my very POC app on my phone, but you get billed for writing, so doing a put, and you get billed as well for doing a read, which is a get. So that, again, for every million requests in writing, you're gonna pay just under 22 Rand. And for every million reads, you're gonna pay just under R5, right? So it's really great, especially if you have something that's read heavy. You can go quite far before having to pay any real money. And again, the nice thing, I think one of the best selling points of DynamoDB is that it guarantees you single-digit millisecond latency. It means that your latency for your reads and writes are going to be somewhere between 1 and 9, not more than that, which is great. And that is at any scale. So whether you have 2 items in your table or you have a million items, you are guaranteed that latency because of how DynamoDB works. And I think that makes it a very nice alternative to something like Redis. Of course, Redis would be microseconds, but I think anything under 200 milliseconds is perceived as instant to the human eye. So I think single digit for that database part is good enough, at least for me. Cool. Next slide, please, Nick. Cool. So with all that said, if you're a solutions architect, please don't judge me for my very, again, scrappy architecture diagram. I did give the warning that I'm very, very, very scrappy. But this is the idea of the app that I currently have in AWS. So I've got an API gateway, which is another serverless service in AWS that doesn't cost me anything yet. And then that calls my Lambda where my my GraphQL API sits. So that is the middle layer between basically the app running on my phone and Investec, right? Why not just call the Investec API directly? Because I do quite a few calculations. So one of the scenarios I have is that I've got a graph that I display that shows me what the trends look like for the last 7 days, last 30 days, and the last year, right? So I'm making concurrent requests to Investec to get all of that data and then display it in a very easy to use way on my phone. So for security, because I'm the only one using the API, I just use an API key, and then that's how I authenticate. And API gateway identifies me. And then you would have seen in Nick's presentation, there was those API keys and the Investec keys you needed to use. I store those in parameter store. AWS does provide 2 methods of secure secret storage. You've got parameter store and the secrets manager. So you might be familiar with secrets manager. Pro tip, parameter store is free, while secrets manager bills you for every secret you store and also for every secret you actually pull. And the only upside that secrets manager has over parameter store is things like automatic secrets rotation, which you can achieve yourself with a Lambda. So you can go implement that at work and get your raise. You're welcome. So I'm using parameter store to store all my keys there. DynamoDB, again, authenticates against my API key, calls those things, and then basically goes and calls the auth API with Investec. And then once I have that API, I put it in DynamoDB, really just that token so I can reuse it. The other nice thing about DynamoDB is that you can almost pick any field, any attribute in your item, and you can designate that column basically as something that expires. So it has a TTL, a time to live. So you can say this, should live for about 25 minutes, which is, I think, the number that I have. There is, again, another pro tip there. So AWS actually doesn't guarantee that they will keep to that promise of expiring when it should. Normally it does expire within 10 minutes of its expiry time or something like that. But that time can go up to 48 hours depending on the amount of data that you have on your API. So you might want to have some kind of retry in there. You can actually move to the next one, Nick. So that's the basic architecture. But a very nice thing that you can have is that DynamoDB, without any code changes, has something called DEX. So this DynamoDB accelerator, which is a cache that sits in front of DynamoDB, and it just uses the same API. So you don't actually have to make any code changes to your app. So if you have built something like Subtrack there, and you are using DynamoDB for your caching, you can actually spin up DEX in front of DynamoDB, and that basically improves your performance tenfold, moving you from milliseconds latency to microseconds. So you now have your data stored in DynamoDB, but also cached in DEX, which basically gives you equivalent performance to Redis without the code changes. And yeah, so that's what I do to get away from having to pay anything, but get all the benefits of being able to have very fast infrastructure running out of Cape Town. Thank you.
Wow. Damn, but that was pretty good. Any questions? Anything I'm still trying to figure out how I can just re-rig a lot of my apps to do this. But yeah, any questions that you guys might have, feel free to ask.
VT, just got a quick one about the pricing that you were showing there. Did you say it's 25 gigs for the first beginning of the month for the first? Okay, I can see it now.
Yeah, so most AWS services will charge you for three things, right? They'll charge you for really two things. They'll charge you for data transfer, so whether you're reading or writing, and then they'll charge you for storage. That's almost all the services. So all of them usually have some sort of free tier to them for those two. For DynamoDB, the first 25 gigs that are stored are free. You don't get.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Okay, cool. For some reason, I thought it was after 25 you pay.
No. Up to 25 gigabytes. You're not paying for storage. You are still paying for data transfer. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Okay.
I just want to add a little caveat to that. I've noticed with the AWS free storage, if you've got any alarms, there's a free alarm service to alert you to any excess. It uses up super fast. So don't turn on your alarms when you're setting up your AWS free accounts. I paid for more alarms than actual services. Keep that in mind.
Thank you for that.
Cool. If there's anything else, guys, feel free to ask BT in the chat. Any other questions?
I just want to ask him something. Like, did you manage to get GraphQL working on the API?
Yeah, I do.
GraphQL model out? Yes,
so I do. I do have a GraphQL wrapper. It's not like, I think there is one someone has shared in the community. I haven't looked at it. So this one, like specifically what I do is I do like some computation. So there's things around, like I'm doing around my taxes, for example. And there's a lot of like endpoints that do like just simple data, what do you call this? Data exploration. So I'll say, show me all the transactions in the last year that are similar to this transaction based on the description, for me to kind of just like quickly see if there's something dodgy happening, if there's any changes in pricing for things like my subscriptions with Spotify. So I'll go and say, basically give me all my Spotify transactions and then graph it out and see when the price went up or something like that. So it's a very bespoke API, but I can actually put something together for the community if anyone's interested in terms of like getting GraphQL working.
I'm interested.
I think it'll be useful because like I've been wanting to play around putting GraphQL on the API just to see what it comes out.
Cool.
So it'll be interesting to see.
I'll do that. Cool.
I think Megan has a question. Megan?
Yeah, I do have a question. Sorry, again, no camera quality is really bad here. But I was just wondering with that, the GraphQL, whatever it's called, are you looking at your spending habits and your trends of like your everyday? Because I know you said something about your last 7-day trends, and I wanted to know if you're talking about your own spending habits.
Yeah, so I'm talking about my own spending habits. So I'm a bit weird when it comes to my transactions. So there's a whole bunch of computations I do. So there are things like, for example, comparing what are the differences in my spending between the first 3 months of the year and the next 3 months of the and the last 3 months, to see if there's any if there's any changes there, right? Like I want to see, am I spending more in winter than I am in summer? And what am I spending more on? Like, so for example, when I looked at my data when we went into lockdown, I realized that I'm spending way less on travel. So no train charges, very minimal petrol charges, but suddenly my food and internet bills went up. So it's like exploring things like that. And then what I do as well is that I used to manually go through my statements and actually make sure that my rental income, anything I had to spend on my rental apartment and things like that were done. So now what I can do is that I can say, fine, just give me anything with a reference number saying George over the last basically financial year. And then I get my total that way to kind of speed up my taxes. So it's almost very much like whatever utility I come up with when I kind of add it to this personal API, and that's why it's sitting in GraphQL. Yeah,
that's so cool. Wow, I've definitely wanted to do something like that. So that's really cool.
I promise I'll sit down. I'll build something that I will share with the community.
Yes,
I will chase
please
you
share
up on that one. Yeah.
You build it and then you share it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Guys, if there's anything else you want to ask BT, please feel free to use the chat. He's also on the Slack channel, so you can reach out to him there also directly. I know that we are running a little bit over time, and we just have the community updates left. And I swear it's actually going to be pretty interesting. And I think if you're part of the community, if you want to be part of the community, if you want to know what's happening in the community, just give us 2 to 3 minutes. Promise it's going to be cool. Okay, cool. So guys, there's some exciting news about the community that's happening. I don't know if you've been looking at the posts that we've been putting up, but the community is evolving, it's growing, it's getting better, it's getting a bit cooler. And part of that evolution is that we're moving to our own dedicated Slack workspace. So we've been chatting to a lot of you guys ahead of time to say, what do you guys want to get into? What do you want to get involved in? And also it kind of came out that we need our own dedicated sort of Slack workspace. And Slack, and I know a lot of you guys have your own opinions about, we should use this, here Discord, or, whatever. But a lot of you guys are using Slack already as part of your work. And a lot of the feedback was, can we just stay in our own Slack workspace? So we're going to be moving to our own dedicated sort of Slack workspace. And this is a big step for, for us as a community. It's a big thrill really to embark on this sort of whole journey that we're going to go on now. So that's actually going to be pretty cool. So you might ask, so why are we moving? That's one of the big sort of things. And this transition is all about just helping you, more, better, just helping you guys out more. Just having our own dedicated Slack workspace allows us to kind of tailor that experience and be more very specifically for the community. And it gives us more control and flexibility to build some operations and some processes that's really going to support you guys in a community space. It also allows us to kind of be more self-sustaining. It's a good sort of vibe to say, hey, we've got our own Slack workspace. We're not sitting inside of another sort of Slack workspace as we're doing at the moment. And it shows that the community can stand on its own, and it's really getting better and better as we get along. So there's a number of sort of reasons why, but basically it's just the sign of maturity of the community itself and what you guys have been a part of in all of this. So just to give you a quick run through of the plan, this isn't going to happen in one big file swoop. We're going to start with the Slack migration in late August. I'll give you notice. There'll be all sort of comms, there'll be events, there'll be all sorts of stuff, and it's going to be really cool. There's a whole process there, but just to give you a quick sort of vibe of how this is going to play is that we're going to launch it in late August, the gradual migration across of our activities and our discussions. So I need to change all our tool sets, our sort of things. So look out for that sort of comms. And then we'll still keep those channels open for a little bit. We'll archive the side sort of the whole channels that we have, and we'll leave one sort of the whole channel open, and then we'll start to close that off. But I'll give you guys more details and all that sort of stuff later on, but this is really a cool step in the right direction. So we're committing to making this transition as smooth and as seamless as possible as we can make it. So you won't even really notice a big sort of change. So this is where we really need your input, because the community is really about you. We want to just emphasize that your input is critical to shape the future of this community. The community is at this critical sort of junction at the moment where it's getting bigger. It's getting out of its whole teenage years a little bit. So this is your whole opportunity to really have a say about the direction of where the community is going to go. And so we really love to get your feedback on it. I'll post some full links to the forms. You can reach out to me on the Slack. You can email. You can direct message me if you feel like it. Just any sort of questions or feedback or any advice that you want to give. That's also really cool. But again, I want to just emphasize that this is your community, and we're just really excited that because of you guys, we kind of are now getting into that space of where we can just stand on our own, which is really cool. Well, any questions that you guys might have off the top of your head? I will give more feedback, more details will come in the later week, but just how do you guys feel about that? Any quick reactions? Essentially, happy, not happy? Okay, Wayne's happy. I'm glad that Wayne's happy. Nick's happy. Okay, awesome. Thanks, guys. But again, we'll send out more comms. It's going to be really cool. There's a whole lot of stuff that we have planned, and the idea is to just make a better, cooler, community sort of experience for you guys. And before we end, I'd really love to get your sort of feedback on our event itself, on tonight's event. As part of the post-event stuff, I tend to just give away some random swag, essentially, to random feedback guys who really felt about the community, what they felt about the event today. There's some questions there. We'd really love to get your feedback on it. But yeah, that's those details there. Our next meetup is going to be in August. August already. In August, and our ideation, which is really cool. It's really fun. It's a fun sort of space where the last ideation sort of session that we did a capture the flag game with programmable cards, which if you haven't seen yet, it's really cool, really fun. I posted a link in the chat earlier on tonight, so you can take a look there. But we have another one that's coming up in August, so look out for that. I'll send out some invites and mails about that later on. Cool, guys. That's the end of the formal sort of agenda. If there's anything you want to ask, anything you want to do, feel free to just hang around. We can chat about that. But yeah, that's the end of the formal agenda part. So yes, thank you very much for your time and appreciate it. And I know that we were running a little bit just smidgen over time, but thank you for your patience.
Cool. Thank
Thanks,
you, Nick.
Nick.
Thanks,
I'm
everyone.
going to
everyone.
drop off. If there's any questions, just ask Nick. He'll forward it to me and I'll get it answered for you. Okay.
Perfect, yeah.
Thanks for the
Cheers.
demos, guys. They were great.
Yes, all
Yeah,
the
great.
demos were great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Thank you so
Cheers,
much.
everyone. Bye.
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 Thanks, guys. Bye.
Right.